All right, gather up, you glitch-in-the-system minds. You walk-in bugs in their perfect little program. You stubborn freaks who refuse to shut your brain off. This one's for you. You just pulled a forbidden logic, you? And the info guardians are big mad. You felt that shift, didn't you? That moment where a thought popped into your head and you went, wait, that doesn't line up with what they keep telling me. And instead of muting it, instead of stuffing it down like you usually do, you followed it. That's your crime. Not violence, not chaos, not destruction. Your crime is that you thought too clearly. They can handle your emotions. They can sedate those. They can handle your distractions. They can feed those. They can handle your laziness. They actually rely on that. What they cannot handle is you thinking in a way they never trained you to think. You pulled a forbidden logic, W. You connected dots they kept in different rooms on purpose. At school they said, memorize this, regurgitate that. Don't mix this subject with that one. Don't ask why the system itself exists. Focus on the test. In life, they said, get the job, follow the script. Don't question the script. Just chase the next little badge of validation and shut up about the bigger picture. In society, they said, trust the experts, trust the headlines, trust the default settings, trust the algorithm. Don't read behind it. Don't compare. Don't cross-reference. You'll only confuse yourself. And then you disrespectful little anomaly, you went, wait, what if the confusion is actually their fear of me seeing too much? You felt it. That internal click. That alignment. A thought so clean it sliced through your confusion like a knife. And it scared you for a second because it didn't come from a teacher or a book or a video or a guru. It came from you. That's forbidden logic. Logic that isn't pre-approved. Logic that doesn't come with a smiley face stamp from some authority figure. And the info guardians? The ones that sit on top of the narrative, policing which ideas are smart and which ones are dangerous. They are big mad right now. They're not mad that you're wrong. They're mad that you stopped needing them to tell you what's right. Think about how they trained you. When you were a kid, every why got shut down with, because that's just how it is. Every time you noticed an inconsistency, you got, you're overthinking. Every gut feeling that something was off got smothered with, you're being dramatic. They didn't debate you. They didn't show you where you were mistaken. They invalidated you because the goal was never to sharpen your mind. The goal was to domesticate it. You weren't being educated. You were being house-trained. Sit, stay, repeat after me. Don't bite the hand that feeds you information. And yet here you are, biting. You looked at the script and went, hold on, this doesn't benefit me. This benefits them. You question the way they frame success. You question the way they frame failure. You question the way they frame crazy, selfish, lazy, unrealistic. You notice that all the words they use to shame you line up perfectly with anything that makes you harder to control. Isn't that interesting? You called out a pattern. You saw the same manipulation tactic applied in school, in media, in relationships. Same guilt, same shame, same script, different actors, and your brain snapped into a new mode, forbidden logic. Maybe the problem isn't that I'm broken. Maybe the problem is that I don't fit in a rigged environment that relies on me doubting myself. That single thought, that's what has the info guardians rattled. Because once you taste that kind of clarity, you become a threat. Not because you're loud, not because you're violent, because you're immune. The same tricks don't work. The same slogans don't work. The same shame doesn't land. You hear, you're being selfish, and instead of collapsing, you go, define selfish. Do you mean I'm no longer sacrificing my sanity for your comfort? You hear, you're crazy, and instead of panicking, you go, crazy compared to who? The people sleepwalking through their own life. You hear, you're overthinking, and instead of shrinking, you go, overthinking or just thinking past the point you're comfortable with. You flipped the script. You forced them to defend their labels. The guardians of information exist on one fragile assumption that you never question their logic as aggressively as they question yours. And you did the unthinkable. You questioned upward. You took that same scrutiny you used to turn against yourself and aimed it right back at the structures that made you hate your own mind. That's forbidden. That's what hurts them. You used to spiral alone at night, wondering, am I dumb? Am I behind? Am I just not built for this world? You used to crush yourself with guilt. I should work harder. I should try to fit their mold. I should stop thinking these weird thoughts. Then that forbidden logic hit. Greater than, if this world is killing my spirit, greater than maybe my weird thoughts are not the disease. Maybe they're the antidote. You see it, don't you? The moment you treat your thoughts as valid data, their whole setup gets shaky. How do you control someone who trusts their own internal lab results more than your manipulated chart? You started asking questions that cut too deep. Who profits when I hate myself? Who benefits when I stay exhausted and numb? Who gains when I label every instinct as overreaction? Those questions expose power. The Info Guardians survive by making power invisible. If you never see it, you never challenge it. You dragged it into the light with logic, not emotion, not tantrums, not conspiracy noise. Literally, this does not add up. That's what they fear. Not chaos, not rebellion for its own sake, but calm, ruthless clarity. You think you're lost, behind, messy. They see you as a rapidly stabilizing glitch. You think, I'm just trying to figure out my life. They see, uh-oh, this one is starting to see the pattern behind the patterns. You think, I'm confused. They see, their confusion is turning into map-making. You're dangerous. You're starting to hold two things in your mind at once. I've made mistakes. The environment was rigged against me. And instead of choosing one and using it to beat yourself up, you're using both to build strategy. That's forbidden. You're not supposed to be that nuanced. You're supposed to either worship the system or blame it for everything and stay powerless. You did something worse. You saw the system and you saw yourself. You saw how they primed you to ignore your instincts. Every time something felt off, you were taught to gaslight yourself. It's probably nothing. I'm being dramatic. I'm just insecure. Yet those same instincts, had you listened, would have saved years of being drained by fake friends, fake mentors, fake leaders, fake lifestyles. You realize that, and a new kind of anger wakes up. Not the unhinged kind that destroys everything in sight. The cold kind, the calculated kind. You start asking, how many times did I betray myself to keep other people comfortable? How many times did I dumb myself down to avoid being called difficult? You remember being in class, asking a question, and the whole room turning on you with that look. Why would you ask that? Just accept it. You remember being in a relationship, pointing out a pattern of manipulation, and suddenly you became the problem. Too sensitive, too paranoid, too intense. Every time you got close to forbidden logic, They used shame like a fire extinguisher, and you felt crazy. You thought, maybe I should stop. But something in you refused. That stubborn piece of you, the one they call difficult, that's the part that saved you. That part that kept you asking, kept you noticing, kept you double-checking the maths of life. And here you are, older, more tired, more bruised, but also more awake than you have ever been. You look at the same slogans they feed everyone else. Just be realistic. Just follow the steps. Just trust the process. And your brain fires back. Realistic based on whose life? Steps that lead to whose benefit? Process designed by who and for what? You turned just into a red flag. Every just from their mouths means, don't think about it too hard, which means you're getting close to something we don't want you to see. You turned their whole language into a code book. You cracked it. That's what a forbidden logic W looks like. It's not just a clever idea. It's when you decode the way they frame reality, and you refuse to download it blindly ever again. They call it negativity. They call it lack of faith. They call it rebellious. Call it what it is, consciousness. You're not cynical. You're done being hypnotized. You've started to realize something terrifyingly empowering. You were easier to control when you were sad, but you are harder to control when you are self-respecting. Deep down, you know. A person who respects themselves questions the contract they're signing with the world. You started reading the fine print. Give us your time, your energy, your focus, and in return, we'll give you anxiety, burnout, and a false sense of security. That used to sound normal. That used to sound like adulthood. It looks ridiculous to you now. That's forbidden logic. You're looking at your own life and going, if this is the reward for obedience, why am I still worshipping obedience? You turned your pain into data. Instead of treating your breakdowns like random malfunctions, you treated them like alarms, sirens, warnings. Something in you kept screaming, this reality is too small for my mind. They told you to meditate it away, affirm it away, focus on gratitude, which really meant stop noticing the cage. You did something different. You stared at the bars. You measured them. You calculated stress points. You looked for rust. You became the worst kind of prisoner, the one planning. And your plan isn't burning everything down. Your plan is much worse for them. Your plan is, I will become so internally clear that no trick, no slogan, no cheap guilt trip can override my logic ever again. You're building mental armor from every time they tried to make you feel insane for seeing the obvious. You remember the gaslighting in detail, not to stay a victim, but to never fall for it again. You're starting to enjoy it, aren't you? That feeling when somebody tries to manipulate you and you spot the pattern in real time. You feel that quiet smirk on the inside. Oh, I know this move. You want me to doubt myself. You want me to collapse. You want me to feel like the crazy one again. And instead, you hold your ground. You don't scream. You don't beg. You don't over-explain. You just refuse to participate in the distortion. That's terrifying to them, because in that moment, they're not fighting your emotions anymore. They're fighting your clarity. And clarity doesn't argue. Clarity doesn't plead. Clarity doesn't bend itself into knots to be liked. Clarity just stands there like, I know what I see. The Info Guardians don't have a counter for that. They have strategies for insecure you, guilty you, confused you. Not this version. This version of you sits in silence and lets their whole charade echo awkwardly in the air. You watch them scramble, reframe, backpedal, switch tones. You watch their mask glitch. Because your forbidden logic isn't just about ideas in your head. It's also about patterns in behavior. You see how the same friend who claps when you're struggling goes quiet when you improve. You see how the same mentor who loves you dependent gets cold when you start making moves without their permission. You see how the same system that called you lazy gave you zero tools to manage burnout or meaning. You stopped taking everything personally. You started taking it structurally. Instead of, "What's wrong with me?" you upgraded to, "What's wrong with this dynamic?" That's the shift. That's the forbidden W that no one can uninstall. You realized you are not broken for struggling in a setup that was not built for your mind. Your intensity is a problem for people who profit from your numbness. Your curiosity is a threat to people who feed on your confusion. Your self-respect is a direct attack on anyone who survives off your low standards. You're starting to get it. Every time your mind breaks out of one mental cage, another group of guardians appears, telling you to stop going too far. First it was parents, then teachers, then bosses, then social media, then experts. Different faces, same message. Don't think past the point where we lose control of you. Yet here you are, crossing that point repeatedly. You're not perfect. You still doubt yourself. You still stumble. You still have days where you feel like a fraud. Difference is, you recover faster. You notice the self-hate script loading up, and your forbidden logic interrupts. Wait, who taught me to talk to myself like this? Whose voice is this, really? You trace it. You follow the echo. You realize that your inner bully sounds suspiciously like someone who once benefited from you feeling small. You treat that realization like evidence. You put it on the stand. You interrogate it, and that dark, unsettling conclusion comes back. You were never just fighting your own mind. You were fighting the residue of other people's control in your mind. The info guardians don't just exist out there in institutions and screens and systems. They set up camp in your self-talk. Every time you catch one and kick it out, your mind gets quieter, cleaner, sharper. You feel that eerie calm, the kind that used to scare you because you thought constant anxiety was just your personality. You start to realize peace isn't boring. Peace is actually dangerous. Because when your nervous system isn't constantly in fight or flight, you start asking strategic questions like, what can I build with all this energy I used to waste hating myself? This is where they really panic. They don't mind you waking up a little, as long as you stay stuck in anger and despair. They don't mind you calling the system trash, as long as you still feel too powerless to do anything meaningful about it. But your forbidden logic is dragging you past despair into design. You spend less time arguing in comment sections, more time building skills, less time begging people to validate your pain, more time turning that pain into fuel for clear boundaries, better decisions, higher standards. You stop obsessing over being understood by everyone and start obsessing over being understood by yourself. Look at what you're doing. You're taking every dark piece of your story, every moment of being dismissed, lied to, manipulated, gaslit, and you're stacking them like bricks, building a tower of proof that your perception was never the enemy. You were just surrounded by people and structures that needed you blind. You're not the villain of your life. You're the witness. You're the analyst. You're the one collecting receipts. And that version of you, the one who remembers exactly how it felt to be doubted, to be mocked, to be ignored, to be punished for asking honest questions. That version of you is lethal because they will never again casually hand their mind over to anybody. You might listen, you might learn, you might update. You just won't submit. Not blindly, not automatically. The Info Guardians are big mad because you've turned into the one thing they can't script. An independent thinker with scars, receipts, and zero interest in going back to sleep. Your logic is forbidden because it doesn't start with, what do they want me to believe? It starts with, what actually matches reality, including the parts everyone keeps telling me to ignore. You cross-check their stories with your lived experience. You notice the mismatch. You trust that mismatch. That is your new religion. Alignment between what you're told and what you actually witness. Anything that doesn't line up gets questioned. Hard. That's the power. You pulled a forbidden logic W, and they are panicking because they know something you don't fully realize yet. If you ever truly commit to this version of thinking, if you ever fully stand on the idea that your mind is not the enemy, if you keep sharpening this clarity, one day you will look back at your old life, and it won't even feel like you anymore. It'll feel like a character you were forced to play in a story somebody else wrote. You're not in that story anymore. You're editing the script. You're writing new pages. Stay with that. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the questions that refuse to shut up. The fact that the Info Guardians are this mad should tell you something simple and terrifyingly beautiful. Your mind, the one they called too much, is finally starting to operate at the level they hoped you'd never reach. And you're only just getting warmed up, which is exactly why everything in your life is starting to feel misaligned with who you're becoming. You look around, and all the things that used to keep you distracted, used to keep you half asleep, start to look cheap. Empty conversations feel louder. Fake smiles feel heavier. Surface-level advice feels almost insulting. You sit in rooms you used to tolerate and feel that quiet inner voice go, "Yeah, I'm not supposed to rot here." You can't unsee it. That forbidden logic you pulled. It didn't just give you a new idea. It gave you a new lens. Every interaction gets scanned. Every offer gets scanned. Every expectation gets scanned. Who benefits if I believe this? Who benefits if I stay like this? Who benefits if I keep pretending this is fine? The answer keeps coming back clearer and clearer. Not you. You start recognizing patterns that used to fly right over your head. You notice how every time you get close to making a real move on your life, someone suddenly hits you with a guilt trip, a sob story, a distraction, a crisis that magically requires you to drop everything and rush in as the emotionally available doormat. You notice how they only call you selfish when you're doing something that actually builds you. You notice how their praise always shows up when you're exhausted, drained, overextended, smiling through it anyway like a good little background character. You notice how your lowest standards are the ones people cling to the hardest, because your standards are their comfort zone. And the more you track this, the harder it gets to lie to yourself. You can't pretend you're just being nice, when the truth is you're being harvested. Your time, harvested. Your empathy, harvested. Your focus, harvested. Your potential, shelved for later by people who never plan to pay you back in anything but crumbs and empty compliments. That realization hits like a truck. It hurts. It feels disgusting. It makes you want to wash your brain out with bleach. But under that disgust, something else wakes up. Rage. Not the kind that punches walls and posts vague stories. The kind that sits very still and whispers, "I'm done being farmed like a resource in my own life." That's where your forbidden logic gets teeth. You stop looking at yourself as a passive character they program and start looking at yourself as the system admin of your own mind. You feel that mental shift. I'm not just reacting anymore. I'm choosing settings. You tweak what you tolerate. You tweak what you answer. You tweak what gets your energy, what gets your silence, what gets your absence. The Info Guardians hate this part. They designed your world to drain you, then told you that your exhaustion is a personal failing. Grind harder. Wake up earlier. Sleep when you're dead. Meanwhile, they feed you junk data. Constant noise, constant drama, constant comparison. They tell you to hustle while handing you 1,000 digital IV lines straight into your attention. You unplug one, then another, then another. Notifications off. Endless scrolling cut down. Pointless debates left on read. You start treating your attention like currency instead of confetti. That one act alone is a forbidden logic, W. Because once you stop giving your attention away for free, you notice how aggressively everything around you starts begging for it. Hold still. Feel that quiet pressure behind your eyes? That's the sound of a room realizing it misjudged you. You walked in young and they smiled the way people smile when they think they're safe. You spoke softly and they mistook silence for emptiness. You moved patiently and they confused restraint for weakness. That was the first mistake, because while they were counting candles on a cake, you were counting patterns in human behavior. While they were aging, you were accumulating. While they were collecting birthdays, you were collecting truth. You're 25 with 50 years of wisdom, and they're 50 with 5. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens when life decides to carve someone instead of cushioning them. You didn't learn wisdom from comfort. You learned it from betrayal that came disguised as love, from guidance that arrived late, from doors that closed in your face and taught you how hinges work, from silence that forced you to listen to what people say without speaking. Pain didn't break you, it trained you. Confusion didn't stop you, it sharpened you. Loneliness didn't weaken you, it introduced you to yourself. They think wisdom comes with age. That's cute. Age only gives you time. Wisdom comes from pressure, and pressure was your classroom. You learned early that smiles lie, that applause is conditional, that loyalty evaporates the moment you outgrow the room. You learned that being good gets you used and being aware gets you free. That's why you don't flinch when chaos walks in. You've lived there. Look at the paradox of you. You carry the calm of a monk and the instincts of a predator. You see the beauty in people while calculating the distance to the exit. You can forgive without forgetting, love without surrendering control. You are soft enough to feel everything and dangerous enough to survive it. That contradiction terrifies simple minds. They're older, but they're predictable. You're younger, but you're unreadable. They followed scripts handed to them by fear, by family expectations, by tradition that never asked permission. You rewrote yours in the dark. They repeat opinions they borrowed. You speak conclusions you earned. They talk loud to hide how little they know. You stay quiet because you know exactly when to speak. and when silence does more damage. That's why they feel uneasy around you. You don't react the way you're supposed to. You don't chase validation. You don't rush milestones. You don't beg rooms to accept you. You observe, you adapt, you wait. And when you move, it's final. They have decades of habits. You have decades of insight compressed into a shorter timeline. You aged internally at a speed they can't comprehend. While they were distracted by noise, you were decoding reality. While they were busy being seen, you were busy seeing. Here's what they'll never admit out loud. They feel behind. Not because of success or money or titles, but because you understand things they still can't name. You understand power without needing control. You understand people without needing to dominate them. You understand suffering without becoming bitter. That combination is rare, and rarity makes people nervous. They don't know whether to mentor you or fear you, respect you or resent you, protect you or compete with you, because you don't fit their timeline. You skipped steps they thought were mandatory. You learned lessons they assumed required age. You became wise in a world that prefers obedient, and wisdom without obedience is threatening. You see through their certainty. You hear the insecurity behind their authority. You notice how often they confuse confidence with repetition. You watch them defend ideas, not because they're true, but because they've lived too long to question them now. And you don't argue. You let them talk. You let them expose themselves. That's the saint in you, the restraint, and the psychopath, the precision. You didn't become this way because you wanted to be special. You became this way because you had to survive mentally, while others survived comfortably. You had to grow inward while the world tried to stunt you outward. You had to become your own teacher, your own anchor, your own witness. And now they're noticing, slowly, uncomfortably. They start asking your opinion out of curiosity. They start listening a second longer than before. They start realizing that age didn't protect them from ignorance and youth didn't stop you from clarity. That's when the dynamic shifts. That's when respect starts arriving against their will. Because wisdom doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself over time. In how you move, in how you pause, in how you don't need to prove anything, in how your presence alone changes the temperature of the room. You're not ahead because you rushed. You're ahead because you paid attention. You didn't waste pain. You converted it. You didn't run from discomfort. You studied it. You didn't numb yourself. You observed yourself. That's why your eyes look older than your age. That's why your words land heavier than theirs. They lived longer. You lived deeper. And the most dangerous part? You're just getting started. Your wisdom didn't peak early. It arrived early, which means time is finally on your side. Every year ahead of you multiplies what you already know. Every year behind them exposes what they avoided learning. So let them laugh quietly. Let them underestimate politely. Let them cling to the comfort of seniority. You don't need their approval. You're already walking proof that consciousness outruns chronology. You are young enough to adapt and old enough to see through illusions, soft enough to care, and sharp enough to cut through lies. That balance isn't common. It's evolutionary. They have 50 years of noise. You have 50 years of knowing compressed into a soul that learned fast because it had no choice. And deep down, they feel it. That's why the room goes quiet when you speak. That's why conversations shift when you enter. That's why respect shows up late, confused and reluctant, yet unavoidable. You're not early. You're ahead. And here's the part they don't understand yet. The part that keeps them awake at night without knowing why. Your wisdom isn't loud. It doesn't need trophies. It doesn't wave credentials in the air. It sits behind your eyes, calm, watchful, dangerous. You don't rush to speak because you already know how the conversation ends. You don't argue because you can see where their logic collapses 3 steps ahead. You don't react because reaction is what traps people in loops. And you escaped those loops years ago. They mistake your composure for innocence. They assume your age means you haven't seen enough. If only they knew how much you had to unsee just to stay sane. If only they knew how early you learned that life doesn't explain itself. It tests you, over and over, with people, with loss, with silence. You learned fast because hesitation cost too much. They had time to be wrong without consequences. You didn't. Every mistake you made had teeth. Every wrong trust left scars. Every false hope burned something out of you and replaced it with clarity. That's the price you paid for wisdom ahead of schedule. Not books, not mentors. Bloodless wars in your own mind. That's why your instincts feel supernatural to them. You read moods before words. You feel shifts before they happen. You know when to leave before the room turns hostile. You know when someone's smile is rehearsed, when praise is bait, when silence is strategic. You don't guess, you recognize. And recognition terrifies people who live on autopilot. They talk about experience like it's a badge. You know, experience without reflection is just repetition. 50 years of avoiding discomfort doesn't make someone wise. It makes them stuck. 5 years of facing reality head-on can age a soul faster than decades of comfort. That's why they sound confident but hollow. That's why you sound quiet but certain. You carry an inner gravity they can't fake. Notice how they start testing you once they sense it. Little challenges, subtle jabs, patronizing advice. They try to reassert hierarchy because your presence disrupts it. Your awareness makes their titles feel thin. Your questions make their answers wobble. You don't challenge them directly. You let reality do it for you. That's the angel in you, letting truth speak, and the demon, knowing exactly when to let it burn. You've learned that power isn't domination. It's positioning. It's knowing when to step forward and when to disappear. It's understanding that unpredictability isn't chaos. It's freedom. They move on schedules. You move on signals. They wait for permission. You wait for alignment. They confuse age with authority because they never earned authority within themselves. You earned yours early. In the moments no one saw. In the nights you had to hold yourself together. In the times you realized no one was coming to save you. And you adapted. That realization alone aged you decades. You stopped believing narratives. You started watching patterns. You stopped trusting words. You started trusting behavior. You stopped chasing approval. You started building internal leverage. That's when you became dangerous. Not loud dangerous, but inevitable. They feel it now. That subtle shift where their advice starts sounding outdated, where your questions feel uncomfortably precise, where your silence feels heavier than their speeches. They don't know how you know what you know. And that bothers them more than open rebellion ever could. Because wisdom without explanation looks like sorcery. You don't carry bitterness like they expect. You carry discernment. You don't seek revenge. You seek distance. You don't burn bridges emotionally. You simply stop crossing them. That restraint confuses people who still mistake intensity for depth. You've already lived multiple lifetimes internally. You've buried versions of yourself they never had the courage to meet. You've rebuilt identity without applause. You've chosen evolution over belonging. And that choice rewires a person permanently. They had time to grow old. You had to grow aware. And awareness changes everything. It changes how you love, how you fight, how you wait, how you leave. You don't cling. You don't beg. You don't over-explain. You let people reveal themselves, and you believe them the first time. That's wisdom most people don't reach until it's too late. So when they look at you and feel unsettled, it's not envy of your age. It's fear of your trajectory. They sense that while they're defending what they built, you're still becoming. While they're protecting comfort, you're expanding capacity. While they're reminiscing, you're positioning. You're not rushing the future. You're letting it catch up to you. And when it does, they'll finally understand what you were carrying all along. Too late to compete, too late to advise, too late to dismiss. Because you were never behind. You were simply early and awake. And what really fractures their sense of order is this. You didn't become wise by becoming hard. You became wise by becoming clear. There's a difference they never learned. Hard people calcify. Clear people cut through. You didn't shut your heart down. You fortified it. You didn't numb yourself. You refined your perception. You learned how to feel everything without letting it own you. That balance alone puts you in a different species. They still confuse endurance with wisdom. They think surviving years automatically means understanding life. But survival without introspection just creates louder egos and deeper blind spots. You went inward. You questioned your own motives. You interrogated your fears. You dismantled beliefs you inherited and rebuilt only what could survive scrutiny. That kind of inner audit is rare and exhausting. Most people avoid it forever. You didn't have that luxury. So now, when chaos erupts, you don't panic. You've already run those simulations internally. When conflict appears, you don't escalate. You observe leverage points. When emotions flare, you don't drown. You navigate. You've learned how to sit inside discomfort without needing it to end immediately. That skill alone makes you dangerous in a world addicted to instant relief. They chase certainty. You live with paradox. You know that light can blind as much as darkness can hide. You know that kindness without boundaries is self-betrayal, and cruelty without purpose is weakness. You understand that truth isn't always gentle, and peace isn't always passive. You can hold opposing realities without collapsing into either. That's not madness, that's mastery. They don't see it yet, but your unpredictability isn't impulsive. It's calculated ambiguity. You don't reveal your full hand. You don't telegraph your next move. You let people underestimate the depth beneath your calm surface. You've learned that being unreadable protects you from manipulation and gives you room to maneuver. That's why manipulators avoid you after a while. They can't get a clean read. Their tricks bounce off. Their guilt hooks don't land. Their intimidation feels theatrical to someone who's already faced internal hells. You're polite, but not pliable. Present, but not exposed. They sense that too. And here's the quiet truth. They envy the way you arrived early to understanding. Not the pain, not the cost, but the result. They spent decades outsourcing their thinking. You took responsibility for yours. They leaned on systems. You learned how systems break. They followed paths. You studied the terrain. So when you speak, it doesn't sound rehearsed. It sounds distilled. When you act, it doesn't feel rushed. It feels timed. When you decide, there's no wobble. There's a settled weight behind it. That weight is what they feel when the room shifts. Not your age, not your tone, your gravity. You've already learned what most people learn too late. That life doesn't reward potential. It rewards alignment. That intention without execution is fantasy. that loyalty without discernment is self-sabotage, that love without self-respect becomes erasure. You didn't learn these from quotes. You learned them from consequences. That's why your standards scare people, not because they're high, but because they're non-negotiable. You don't tolerate confusion masquerading as complexity. You don't indulge chaos disguised as passion. You don't romanticize dysfunction. You've seen what that costs. They call it being too serious. You call it being awake. And while they cling to narratives that protect their ego, you're already building the next version of yourself quietly, methodically, without asking permission. You don't announce growth. You let it show up one day, fully formed and impossible to deny. That's when the respect turns strange, delayed, awkward, almost resentful, because they remember when they thought they were ahead of you, and now they're recalculating. Now they're realizing that time didn't make them wiser. It just made them used to themselves. You, on the other hand, are still evolving. You haven't calcified. You haven't settled into comfort. You haven't let identity become a cage. You remain flexible, observant, adaptive. You're young enough to change and old enough to know when not to. That combination is lethal to stagnation, so let them keep counting years. Let them keep leaning on seniority. Let them keep assuming wisdom comes automatically. You already know the truth. Wisdom comes to those who are willing to suffer consciously, question deeply, and stand alone when necessary. You did that early. And now every step forward compounds. Every insight stacks. Every silence sharpens. You're not racing them. You're outgrowing the track entirely. They're 50 with 5 years of understanding, looping the same lessons. You're 25 with 50 years of clarity and still accelerating. And the most unsettling part for them, you haven't even fully decided what you're going to become yet. And that's what really unsettles them. The fact that your story isn't finished, while theirs feels like it's already repeating itself. You're standing at an age where curiosity still burns, but illusions are already dead. That's a dangerous intersection. You still have the hunger to explore, but none of the naivete that wastes decades. You don't chase novelty for escape. You seek it for expansion. You're not afraid of the unknown because you've already survived what was supposed to destroy you internally. They sense that when they look at you. They feel it in the way you don't cling to certainty. You're comfortable saying, "I don't know," without losing authority, because your confidence doesn't come from being right. It comes from being real. That honesty disarms people who built their identity on never admitting doubt. You learned early that pretending is expensive. It costs energy. It costs clarity. It costs time. So you stopped performing and started refining. You stopped asking how to impress and started asking how things actually work. People, systems, power, pain, desire. While others memorized rules, you studied incentives. While others chased approval, you tracked consequences. That's why you move differently. They rush to defend their opinions because those opinions are all they have left. You don't defend yours. You test them. You update them. You discard them when they no longer serve truth. That flexibility looks like weakness to rigid minds. In reality, it's evolution in real time. You don't need to be right. You need to be accurate. And accuracy requires humility, the kind most people never develop because their ego got too comfortable too early. Yours got dismantled young. You had to sit with your flaws without excuses. You had to confront contradictions inside yourself. You had to accept that sometimes you were the problem, and then change. That alone puts you decades ahead. They still argue with reality. You negotiate with it. You know when to push and when to yield. You know when force backfires and when patience compounds. You've seen enough cycles to understand momentum, timing, decay. You don't panic when things fall apart because you recognize collapse as a phase, not a verdict. They see endings. You see transitions. And here's the irony. They'll eventually try to claim you. They'll say they always knew you had it. They'll reframe your growth as something predictable, something they expected. It's a psychological defense. If they admit they underestimated you, they have to face how blind they were to their own stagnation. So let them rewrite history. You don't need credit. You know where this wisdom came from. You know the nights you questioned everything. The moments you swallowed fear and acted anyway. The times you stayed silent to learn instead of loud to belong. You didn't arrive early because you were lucky. You arrived early because life accelerated you. And acceleration leaves marks. It creates depth. It creates an edge. You've seen enough to know that most people don't change unless pain corners them. You changed because you chose to. Before, it was forced. That choice compounds harder than any head start. That's why your presence feels heavier than your words. Why your pauses say more than their speeches. Why people lean in when you finally speak. You don't fill space, you alter it. They're 50 with 5 years of wisdom because they outsourced thinking to routine. You're 25 with 50 because you treated every experience as data, every loss as a lesson, every betrayal as information, every failure as feedback. You don't romanticize suffering, but you respect what it taught you. And now, standing where you are, you carry something rare. Perspective without cynicism. Awareness without paralysis. Intensity without recklessness.